Amar here?
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Georgie.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine too, thanks.
Good.
Hi,
Okay,
Gary.
I'm not seeing. Is that Anna? I can't see who's
That's easy.
there. Zizi, hi Zizi, there you are. I'm sorry, I couldn't. I had you blocked by a homework assignment. How are you, Zizi?
Good. How are you, Gary?
I'm very fine, thank you. Quite a
Good.
lot going on. Hi, Anna.
Gary, I have a message from Sofia Zhudadze. So right now she's on her way to the business trip, and she won't be able to attend the lecture physically today.
Uh-huh. Is she going to attend it non-physically?
I'm sorry? She's physically on her way right now in the car driving to business trip.
No, you said she's not going to attend it physically. So
We are not able.
Yeah, virtually.
even virtually, she's not going to attend it.
Yeah, even virtually she won't be able to attend it.
So what's beyond virtually? It's in the subtle plane, psychologically, I guess. Psychologically, she can be with us even if she's not with us.
Yeah,
With all
Yeah.
her heart.
There you go. That's what we want. We value
even
it.
she's not with us physically, like physically or distantly, she's with us still.
You can tell her that we felt her presence then.
Okay.
Or we missed her presence.
And we also have the same information about Anna Hujadze. She will also not attend.
I think she sent you an email. She has the birthday of her twins today.
Oh. That's a serious birth of her twins, did you say? Birthday.
Birthday of
Yes,
her
birthday.
twin kids.
I don't remember the rules for taking on holidays on birthdays. Hi, Lakshmi. Aline, good morning or afternoon. I guess it's...
Yeah, it's afternoon already. Yeah, hello.
Okay, anyone else there? Srijit, are we expecting anyone else? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 1, 4.
I'm here, Lisa.
Tamara hasn't come. That was Sophie is not virtual, and the other Anna was another Anna. Right? But who else are we missing? Tamara? Somebody has a list. I have a list.
Yeah, there is Nini Hvinianidze, Hvinianidde missing now. But I don't know if she's joining or not.
Okay, well, we'll begin then. We're getting smaller. Thanks for, I think, we got the homework a little late, but I think Georgie and Anna, I think, submitted it on time. Thank you for that. It didn't leave me much time to look at all of them because we have so much going on here. I don't know, did I mention that we have a conference next week?
Yes, you did last time. Some 4-day or something, right?
Actually 5 days with the United Nations.
Yeah.
If anyone's interested, just has nothing directly to do with the course. If anybody's interested and thinks they have some time, you can just put it in the chat window and Vani or Janani will send you more information about it.
Mhm.
There are parallels and it is relevant, but that's at the global level and we're working at the national and the corporate level. But anyway, there are some interesting sessions even directly related to business and finance too. But you can take a look at the agenda and see. It's easy. So tell me, was it helpful to think in terms of Amazon from the point of view of the 5, what I'm calling engines or resources of society? Did it give you
Yeah,
any-
it was very helpful actually. It did it like helped personally me to put together everything regarding these 5 engines. So it was interesting to see that on the example of a specific company.
Good.
How
What-
those engines are working.
And what to me is important is to realize the potential doesn't come out of nowhere. It's there outside. It's a question of perception and our capacity to perceive the opportunity and harness it
To
effectively.
tap in the opportunity to be able, yeah.
So that was the theme of our discussion yesterday, that society is an infinite sink of resources and potential. We tap, actually the society taps, the companies tap business, the society itself taps only a little bit of it because we're not organized for it. Today, we tap much more than we did 25 years ago. The conference that we're organizing next week with about a few hundred participants from many different countries. The normal preparatory time for something like this a few years ago would have been 6 months or a year normally. And we've done the whole thing in less than a month. And not only that, but we're getting a level of participation and cooperation that we wouldn't get if we had started a year ago because we're doing it virtually. This is one example of how knowledge as a resource, people's expertise as a resource. Most of the people I'm working with now, I used to travel 4 or 5 months a year. Now none of us, and that's typical of the group, none of us are able to travel. Instead of feeling bored or unemployed, we actually find ourselves fully employed for the first time because the way we're working now is so much more efficient than the way we were working when we were physically moving around. There's Tamar. Hi, Tamar. Say hello and unmute yourself. I wanted to ask you a question, Tamar. You weren't here. What was it I wanted to ask? Oh, you worked in a logistics company before.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
I'm working in Car Express. It's importing cars from America, and I'm in logistics.
You were the logistics manager for the import of the cars.
Yeah.
I see. Good. Thank you. And you said Pride and Prejudice was one of your favorite stories, huh?
Yeah, I like it.
Why? What did you like?
No, everything about it, the story, whole story.
if you think about, for example, people who were supposed to be called retired. I guess I'm supposed to be retired, but I never had a job with anybody else. I've always been doing what I'm doing now. But we have people with decades and decades of rich experience that once they meet a formal retirement age, they find it very difficult to use their skills productively, their knowledge productively, for the benefit of society or for their own benefit. I'm giving this simply as one example. Take retired teachers. There's a huge shortage of teachers in the world. But once a teacher leaves formal education, at least not yet, it may come very soon, but we lose the expertise of those people because we have no systematic way of tapping that. Now technology will make it possible for us to do it much more. It is making it possible much more than before. It's an example of a social resource that it's not fully utilized. That's true of all resources, and it's true that no matter how much we organize or how much we develop our technology, just like our own capacities, it's not possible for any person to fully utilize their own capacities. And even if we utilize what's developed, there's so much more that isn't developed, that isn't been organized yet, that we don't fully understand. You learn as you go through life. And this is true of society as well. So let's go back to Amazon. Srijit, let's go through, walk us through a discussion, and let's see how far we can really see the stages of what Amazon did to grow to be the most valuable company in the world and make Steve Bezos a fairly wealthy man.
Jeff Bezos. Yeah, good afternoon, all of you. By 5 engines here, we mean to say 5 basic social resources which helped Amazon to emerge as the king of e-commerce. Sir, can you go to the next slide, sir? Most of you might be knowing the fact that Amazon was founded as an online bookstore in 1994. Can you move to the next slide, sir? Jeff, in the initial stages of its establishment itself, had very well identified the potentials of internet as a future market. In book sales itself, there was huge competition, so many bookstalls all around the places. He did not want to create yet another bookstore, but to approach bookselling by breaking all the conventional methods. He started using the online platform for selling books in a time when a new entrant in this sector can't dream for much. But digitalization of his products showcase its visibility and easiness in searching and finding similar books in the same category gave him enormous opportunities to grow infinite-like. As we all know, Amazon repeatedly appears first in Google search engine. Now, as customers' entry in search of products and services are like 24/7 and continuously for 365 days, there is absolutely no need for website optimization as the traffic itself promotes its site. Can you go to the next slide, sir?
Srijit, did you get a chance to check on Barnes & Noble?
No, sir. Barnes & Noble, I went through, but, I didn't get enough information regarding that.
And I'll just mention it because I don't know if any of you have heard of Barnes & Noble, but in 1995, when Amazon was started, when the World Wide Web really was started, Barnes & Noble was by far the largest book-selling company in the world. And in the US, I wanted Sridhar to check it just for the numbers because I haven't looked them up in years and I can't trust my memory. But they were running bookstores that were more like huge department stores, not the corner bookstore. And in all the metros, they had these huge stores, dominating stores filled with every conceivable book. And it was interesting because anyone would have predicted at that time that the company that would benefit most in this industry from the World Wide Web would be Barnes and Noble. Now, the very fact that though they were the largest bookseller in the US at that time, the very fact that none of you have even heard their name says something. Because they had huge resources. Bezos was starting off from scratch. They had all the books, all the inventory. They had all the contact with the publishers, financial resources, everything you would think they needed. But we've never heard of the Barnes and Noble website, which of course was there. They even tried to get into ebooks, and they even had an ebook reader, but it fell flat. And it's interesting to think about this from the point of view, I think it was Anna, one of you mentioned in your note this morning that I read today, I'm not sure, that he caught the wave. What Barnes and Noble did was be the surfer who was too late and missed the wave for the simple reason that they said, look, we've got all these brick and mortar stores, huge stores, and there were, I'm tempted to say 1,000, but it sounds like too many, but huge stores. They said, now that the internet has come, we can advertise using the internet and get more people to come into our stores. And what did Steve Bezos say? I don't have any stores. I don't want to get people to come into my stores. I want to get books. I want people to buy books from me. So even though he had nothing, apparently there's no contest. He neither has money, nor books, nor people, nor anything. There's no contest. His very absence of having anything turned out to be his biggest advantage because he had no vested interest in the past, in the existing business model. And what Barnes and Noble did, tried to utilize the internet to reinforce and support an existing business model, which was essentially going out of business. And this is a good example of how the evolution of the society and the evolution of companies, great companies of the past who played a pioneering role in earlier stages, at a later stage, we don't even hear about them. If you're born too recently, you never even heard their names, but they were the Amazons of their age. And it's not that they weren't capable, competent, or qualified to take advantage of the new opportunities. It's simply that they were too much grounded and lost in their existing business models. A classic example is Kodak. When I was growing up, and this was true until the mid-'80s or more, Kodak, the camera, the other name for a camera was Kodak. And the film was Kodak film. And they dominated not just the American market, but they dominated most of the global market, maybe not so much in Germany. There were some film producers and some top camera makers. But I mean for the ordinary middle run, not the top end, high-end cameras. But film meant Kodak, they made most of their money not on the cameras, but on developing the film. Not even on the film, on developing the film for pictures. And it seems they had a digital camera. They had a digital camera maybe 20 years before digital cameras became popular. But they said, my gosh, this technology will wipe out our revenues from processing film. And they put it in the drawer. The society was moving ahead. They wanted to be grounded in the past. And now we don't even hear the name Kodak anymore. It was the dominant company in the world in the photo film and the camera business. So this is what happens by those waves. If you catch the wave, even if you're a small fry or almost a garage operation like Amazon, you can keep on going and rising. And it doesn't matter how big you are, your size can become a big impediment and a big obstacle to the future. If you can't maneuver, if you can't get away from the iceberg like the Titanic, it can become the thing that takes you down rather than the thing that takes you forward. And that's going to be true one day for an Amazon also. Not that I'm not predicting, I'm saying as we become bigger, as we become more vested in our existing business and our business model, we become more vulnerable to the rapid changes in society which don't wait for anybody. So Amazon and Barnes and Noble are a classic example of a common phenomenon. If you study enough, it's true in the, if we have time, I'll tell about it, in the retail, the retail department store business in the US, which is now dominated by Walmart. When I was growing up, we never heard of Walmart. They were maybe just known in a few Midwestern states. Go ahead, Shaji. Come forward.
Can you go to the next slide, sir?
I'm trying. It's not moving. I don't know why. Okay.
Okay, now Amazon had become a digital colossus. From Prime Videos to Kindle to App Store to MP3 and Cloud Player. It's the biggest digital market as we know, making it as one-stop shop for anything and everything. Can you move to the next slide, sir? As I mentioned in the beginning, Jeff Bezos had identified the potentials of going digital. They were on an operational loss for more than a decade initially, but they were sure of their future. People all around the globe will one day turn digital, and for that, there is no need to wait so long, was their basic attitude and belief. If they were taking a direction of physically establishing things in buildings, their growth might have been limited. Limited in space, limited in reach, very slow stock turnover, costing them huge in building physical assets and resources. Digital gave them the possibility of reaching the world market with continuous improvement and innovation, customized services, with unlimited inventories and unmatched efficiency compared with the conventional approach of brick and mortar. When Amazon stood in the world market as one-stop shop for anything and everything, after their initial operational loss, they really emerged as the king of e-commerce, setting high-quality benchmark and standards for serving the customer. Best possible products available in best possible price, giving them an opportunity for efficient cost management, building their brand equity, and opening the worldwide possibility of buying power through negotiating the volume discount. Can you go to the next slide, sir? We can see that Amazon multiplied itself by one thing. It is by leveraging the organizational power of networks. Sir, one more slide, sir, please.
One more, huh?
Yeah.
It's slow. I don't know why it's not going. Oh, wait a minute. No. So. No.
Now, before that.
This is the last one before the discussion.
Yeah, that's correct, sir. I want that discussion point now, actually.
Oh.
Okay, this was actually, we had given this as a homework assignment. Amazon is a perfect example for understanding the power of organization. Basic principle what we are discussing in this course is companies grow sustainably if they attune themselves with the global social resources as engines for their rapid expansion. Growth of a company is directly proportional to the ability of firms in harnessing these potentials of society. Now, can we discuss for the next 15 minutes how Amazon tapped the potential of the society, which we know capital, market, people, organization, and technology. And we will come back and resume the next sessions actually. Vani, can you initiate a Zoom discussion forum now?
Yes, I'll do it in a second. Janani, can you please make me host?
Oh, okay. Yes, your host now.
We'll wait for the other group to come back from their room.
Yeah, I will just end the sentence that Bezos is once a year, he just takes the phone calls and he's also responding to customers like the customer service agent. And that is also something that shows how much Bezos cares about the customers. But the condition that they have at work and the standard that Amazon has for working atmosphere and working environment is very, very high, believe me.
Yeah, maybe this happens, the cases that I told about, maybe these are because the people sometimes who work in successful companies, who in large companies, they want to get some compensation and they are sometimes lying about the working conditions. This happens very often.
Okay, we're out of time. I don't want to steal more, so I won't comment on that anymore.
You're muted, Garry, sir.
Who just told me? I was just going to say it's possible that both are true, because in life, most everywhere, there are two sides to the same truth. And on the people side, we've heard both stories. It was interesting to hear you, Elaine, from your inside. Nina, welcome.
Hi, I've been here for a while, but I just couldn't turn the video on. So yeah, I've just been listening.
Okay. Well, I didn't know you were there, so that glad you have showed. We're looking at how Amazon tapped the social resources and the social opportunities. You have something to share?
Unfortunately, not really. I haven't been able to do the assignment yet. We've had some, let's just say, a bit of a crisis at work, so I haven't been able to get to that. And to be honest, the assignment itself was a bit confusing. I wanted to ask a few questions, and then I guess I kind of get it now, but still a bit confused. But yeah, I'll make sure to read about Amazon today.
Good. Well, hopefully by the end of the discussion, there'll be no, I hope there won't be any more confusion. Srijit, shall we go on then? I think.
Please.
You're going on, right? Or I'm going?
I'm yet to see the slides, sir, actually.
You're coming. Oh, what happened? Can you see it?
No, not
No,
yet.
we cannot.
You cannot? Hmm?
No.
Something happened with the power supply. What happened? You see me, but you don't see my screen?
Yeah, exactly.
The
We see
PowerPoint
you.
slides are not there, actually.
Yes.
What's not there? The slides are not there? One second. It got unshared somehow. I see. Okay. I don't know how that. Okay.
So I'm surprised to see that, all our conclusions about Amazon are uniform all around the world, actually, in India or in any other place for that matter. So let us discuss, one by one, how they used the market as a potential resource. As we all know, Amazon had created a new market a new way of shopping for the humankind. I would say it had almost recreated the conventional market more dynamically in an online platform. Nowadays, most of our practice is we even go to shops or shopping after searching the price and specification of the product which we want to buy first in Amazon. Take the books for that matter. We get that in no time in Amazon. We get also the information about similar books and also what others worldwide are searching for while searching this book. We can even write a book review and can like or dislike the book as a feedback. It also gives a product suggestion using artificial intelligence. We can buy even used books, and Amazon acts as a lending library. We can publish a book and do self-promotion in Amazon, in the marketplace actually, Amazon marketplace. So much of possibilities are there with Amazon. Amazon had merged with yet another social aspiration. Anyone can build a company and promote their products through Amazon. It acts as a social guide and a platform for startups. With zero investments, Amazon had identified itself with the general social aspiration globally. They understood the potentials of new kinds of shopping, the busyness of people living in cities, helping people to reduce the transaction cost occurring at the time of purchasing, helping the customers in easy comparisons or in one-click ordering or just-in-time delivery. Amazon satisfies their customers by easy methods in reverse logistics also. We can return anything and order a new item at any time, maybe in a week's time. Third-party logistics people come to our doorsteps. Amazon is a place where people's social aspiration meets with technology, marketing network, innovation, and entrepreneurship. The company had really understood the minds of people, the psychology of society, and the process we can understand about the firm is how a company attune itself with the real market aspirations and potentialities.
I think the most interesting thing about this is the first one. According to this, Srijit, Amazon Marketplace is the #1 e-commerce marketplace, not Amazon.
That's true, sir.
You mean everybody's clear what they mean by the marketplace?
I think so.
The market, if this is, the marketplace is where they are providing a platform for third-party sellers, right?
That's true, sir.
Does that mean that their third-party business is larger than their own business?
They arranges the platform for that actually.
So
they are going to do it for startups as well. In 2020, they are giving immense opportunities for startups to open up there in that marketplace actually.
So this is an example of what I mean by tapping the social resource. Their biggest business is not selling something. Their biggest business is becoming a network or a vehicle for anybody to sell anything to anybody else. So everybody who's got something to sell, they are tapping that resource to reach anybody who wants to buy something, because their platform is so easy to use, so universal in its reach, so high in its quality of service. So this is the best example, I think, from Amazon or from almost any company of how a company identifies itself with the social potential. All these millions of people who want to sell something, and many of them are just in a garage. You yourself, Srijit, are encouraging your students to go and develop businesses for marketplace. And yet, because they've created a platform, they can enable anybody to reach out to the rest of the world. This is what we mean by tapping social potential. I think we should go on to the next part. No?
Yes, sir. We can discuss about the technology, how they
I'd like to hear from the industry more than our, I mean, this is just to stimulate. They know enough about Amazon, that's why we chose it. What about in terms of technology?
Yeah, it's quite evident that Amazon as a firm had used the digital technology and enabled a worldwide online platform and had created an internet market. It also uses technology to keep the customer voice within the organization. They had integrated customer feedback system with core staff software and with sellers. As a company, Amazon has always been in the forefront to improve core business functions. For example, through its acquisition of warehouse robotics company called Kiva, they were able to optimize its warehousing system to cut cost and increase efficiency. Between 2014 to 2020, around 50,000 robots had installed in its warehouses. Majority of them falls in the US. This prepares them effectively for a holiday season. Amazon had an open-minded but strategic approach about digital transformation. Not all manufacturing software solutions will do what they say they will do. And not all production environments will benefit from a new piece of software. Amazon but thinks in terms of future capabilities, business drivers, and what market is doing. They also have highly automated process from production through to support system like performance management and finance. Actually, from movie production to Amazon Prime and Alexa, or leased cargo flights called Amazon Air, or Uber-like cargo service called Amazon Flex. They are not only a business based on technology, but all their products also are based on innovative technologies. I have a video to show now. I think, Janani can run that video for us.
Okay.
We can see how that warehouse system and the whole logistic process happens in Amazon.
So I have to unshare my...
Unshare. I can just start my sharing stuff. Okay. And the same video, it has been sent as a link on Zoom chat, and it has also been forwarded in the WhatsApp group. So you can watch it even later. I'll just start the sharing now.
I think the point is not just unshare so I can go back, Janani.
Yes. We can see.
Is not that the point of this, did you know that Amazon invented the conveyor belt, the assembly order system, the robots, the drones, the computerized systems and everything? Of course, they didn't invent any of it. They didn't invent any of it. What they invented was, what they did was they brought together the social capacities that have been developing over 100 years in a unique organizational configuration with the values and commitment, the management, to make it do things that nobody else had done in this way or with this perfection. And that's our theme. They didn't invent this technology. Oh, they may have their customized ordering system and everything, but they didn't invent ERP systems or order processing systems or inventory control systems or any of that either. They simply assembled it. they organized it more effectively. And that's why when we think about Amazon as a technology company, I think it misses the point. Of course, they're using technology, the technologies for the delivery. It's not the technology that we appreciate. It's the seamless organization and integration of technology to meet customer needs. Not just this, the goodness, the customized service, not just the low cost, but also, as been said, the speed of response. When they realized that overnight delivery would really make a difference, now they're trying in some places for 1 hour delivery. That's the company attuning itself to the society better than others are doing. None of it looks genius from the customer's point of view, because that's what we want. But it's very difficult for companies to get out of their box and really think about what people would want and how to give it better than others. So let's go on, because we're just kind of coming. So theme, that's the theme I wanted to get you to think about, is the organization. How they have conceived of an organization for delivery. You saw one part of it with the product. It's that organization which is unique. Go ahead.
Sir, can you click once again, sir? You know, some points are there actually. If we observe closely, what Amazon does is organizing only. They tap the societal aspiration of user-friendliness in shopping, connects it with people within, and also with the available technology called internet, and organizes and creates a big platform for sellers and buyers to meet. They also organizes information, logistics, customer service, order processing, and its fulfillment digitally. Amazon now uses the third-party logistics for packing and transporting their products. Firm organizes hub systems in most of the important cities all around the globe, which serves as a central point of their distribution. They organizes all those available resources within the society and had grown as one of the most important companies in the world. I also want to show here one more video which showcases Amazon Go. Amazon Go is a product with which we can see the business they are involved is organizing things. Can we see that video generally now?
Yeah.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So, how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
line again, gentlemen? Thank you. Okay, so I think it's pretty clear that every area of their business, from their purchasing, warehousing, inventory, marketing, is a finely tuned organization in tune with not only the latest technology, highest efficiency, highest speed, and best service possible. And this is really the engine that drives the company. So we've talked about, and I think it's clear, even this, they have packaged it. I'm not trying to detract any credit from Amazon, but I think what's important is all of these things are there in the society. The moving assembly line for order processing was invented by, of retail, was invented by Sears about 1908. We're talking more than 100 years ago. All of these technologies, all of these organizational mechanisms, FedEx did the overnight delivery now 50 years ago. What's unique is how beautifully they have integrated it, fine-tuned it, and tailored it to human needs, social needs, put the whole thing together so nicely. They didn't invent most of the barcoding, they didn't invent, the robots they didn't invent, and so forth. And that's, I'm only repeating it to emphasize the ERP systems they didn't invent. Business opportunity is what's there in the society already. Our job is to identify the needs and how to meet those needs more effectively from the existing social resources in new combinations. I hope the point is clear now that even if we take a new context, even if you go to a new context, you'll be able to think this way, even if it's a completely different industry or a different field than the companies that we're talking about. So we're going to break in a minute, but let's just do one more component, one more engine, and that's finance. Go ahead, Srijit.
Yeah, from payments to lending and insurance to checking accounts, Amazon is utilizing all financial services from every angle without applying to be a conventional bank. It's hard to claim that Amazon is building the next generation bank. But if we closely monitor, we can anticipate that Amazon has got aspirations into banking, financial services, and fintech. The company remains very focused on building financial services, products that support its core strategic goal, that is increasing participation in the Amazon ecosystems. Amazon had made several fintech investments, mostly focused on international markets outside of US, in Mexico and in India at large, where partners can help serve Amazon's strategic goal. Amazon also had taken all core components of modern banking experience and tapped them to suit Amazon merchants and customers. They now heavily invest on startup firms worldwide to operate fully in Amazon platform, Amazon Cash, Amazon Pay Visa cards, Amazon Protect, Amazon Allowances, Business Prime, Amazon Lending, Amazon Rechargeable, and Amazon Go clearly indicates Amazon foray into financial services. Amazon Pay has evolved into a digital wallet for customers and payments network for merchants actually.
So they're looking at finance not only for customers and customers' purchases, they're looking at it for new businesses, their relationships with their marketplace participants in all areas. They have understood not only the technologies available, but the enormous resources available to finance a viable way of meeting social needs. And they don't define themselves as a product company. What are they? How do we define them?
They are the biggest online retail platform.
And yet they're also the biggest online web services company, and they make more, I think they make more money on their web services than they do on they are a platform, they're a delivery system for meeting human needs in a cost-effective way. The idea that we look at what you said is not wrong, Zizi, but it's just not enough. Because
yeah, it now includes services, which is mostly the services. I mean,
in fact, almost all of this is services. Retail itself is a service. They're not making things. They're offering services. They're offering services to meet such a wide financial services, logistical services, warehouse, retailing services, marketing services, publishing services now. You know, they're in the beginning. I think we're still in the early stages of, being an author, I know what it is to work with publishers. Before Amazon, the ebook was not invented by Amazon, but ebooks didn't take off until Amazon took it up and did the Kindle. And think about how publishing is organized in the world today, even today. But before Amazon, it's more clear. But authors who have however brilliant they are, whatever they have to communicate, the only way they can reach the world is to sell their books to big publishing houses who market them, print them, publish them, and distribute them. And I can tell you, the author gets on an average only 10% of the retail price of a book that's sold. The rest goes for the delivery. Some of it goes to a retailer if in the traditional market. The rest goes for advertising, editing, and the whole promotional inventorying and so forth. Now what's happened? Amazon's created a platform where anybody in the world can publish their own book, set their own price for it. And pretty soon, I don't know how soon, but pretty soon, the more the books are being sold on the internet rather than in the bookstores, the less there's going to be need for traditional publishers. Traditional publishers handle lesser and lesser numbers of titles because it's only the big items, the big names that are promoted by the big publishers. The publishers don't promote the rest of them. They simply print them and put them on the bookstore shelves. And if they don't sell, the author doesn't earn anything. Now Amazon's offering print on demand. So anybody can publish a book, set the price, and anybody in the world can buy that book electronically, have it instantly delivered, is an example of reorganizing, or rather more organizing, the society. It's just like news. When I was growing up, there were only 3 major TV stations in the US, networks rather, that offered world news and national news. And if you didn't get through them, you hardly got through anybody. Every city had its own local newspaper. Some big ones had 2 local newspapers. But look today, news is no longer in the box. You can get the news from anywhere in the world, meaning you can get much more news much faster, a much wider variety of news. In other words, the society, the global society, is much more organized than it ever was before. And the potential for organizing it better is enormous. It is great as what has been achieved. The thing necessary for that is not money or technology. The thing necessary to do that is to be able to look freshly and see what we're not tapping, see that things can be done differently. And the fact that Barnes and Noble could not understand that they were right in front of not a gold mine. They were standing right in faced with a global opportunity of immense proportions. They're not blind, they're not idiots, they're well educated, they're top people, but they're looking from what already exists. And that's the way we're trained to look and see what's not been done, what's not been tapped, the way society could be in the future, rather than the way it's been up until now, is what we call, is the vision to really create something new. And this is a wonderful example. It's happened in your lifetime, so it's more tangible to you. I think we'll break now for 15 minutes. Come back at, let's say, 4:05, and we'll continue. Elaine, what is the work you're doing now?
Excuse me?
What is the work you're doing now?
I'm the procurement specialist at international corporation named Majorel, which is doing the customer service outsourcing for the companies.
Customer service outsourcing for what type?
Yeah. For example, you know, the names of the companies are confidential, so I might know a lot, but can't really say much. So, for example, Condor, the airline, is our client, and we provide support to their clients, and we use their name, of course, because no one wants to share that they're outsourcing their customer service. And for example, ASUS, the IT technology provider, the producer is also our client. Is my connection that bad, or can you hear me?
Sure.
Yeah, so yeah, and Lufthansa and companies a lot like that. Yeah, many more. All the huge companies you might have heard of. Yeah.
Just within Georgia?
The Majorel is in 28 countries, including the States, Canada, all of the Europe, Philippines, India for sure, because you know how much customer service is in the Eastern Asia. And also we have, in Georgia, we have 5 languages, 3 sites, 1,500 employees, which is very something for Georgia and its labor force. And yeah, actually I'm a lawyer. I'm MBA is something new for me, but yeah, I find it very cool because I have this experience at work for 4 years already, and I meet this everyday things there, and that is also very something for me.
Your insights about Amazon, your inside information was also very useful, very interesting.
Thank you. Nice to hear that.
We see it from the outside. It's not one of the companies I've been into. And, most of the companies I talk about, I've been into them and know them from the inside, but you have an insight about it. Well, let's get started. I wanted, I don't think we gave I think the 1978 was the period during the second oil crisis. I don't know how many of you ever know about it. It was in 74 that the OPEC countries for the first time realized that they don't need to be limited by the Western oil companies where all the profits are going overseas. They created OPEC 73, 74, and they doubled the price of petroleum virtually overnight and kept the rest of the profits. And that's when the OPEC countries, Saudi Arabia and the others, started to really boom and prosper. And then 4 years later, they did it again. So the price had gone, price of petroleum and petrol, gas, what we call gas, went up 4 times. And that means the cost of transportation in America, where the gas guzzling cars were really the norm, they still are, relatively speaking. Big country, huge distances, where the public transport system cannot handle the masses of people going in all directions with their highly individualized lifestyles. All the big 3 automotive companies were really taken off guard by the sudden fact that the cost of petroleum was so high that suddenly people started looking for cars that were fuel efficient. And at the same time, fuel efficient meant smaller cars. At the same time, this was the period in which Japan finally came into its own. And up until when I was growing up, Japanese goods were like, I don't know, made in Bangladesh. They were the low quality, low priced goods. But by the late 70s, their engineering, their manufacturing skills and imitation had become so good that they could make anything up to Western quality, but they were making smaller cars, more efficient and much longer lasting. When I was growing up, you buy a car to keep it for 2, 3, maybe 4 years. And then you want to trade it in because it's already obsolete. It's not meant to last more than that. That was the big stimulus for the American car industry, automotive industry. But in Japan, coming from a completely different culture, they were making products to last. And I remember we bought a Japanese car at that time, and we kept it for more than 10 years. And it was something almost, it was a talking piece that you could run a car for 10 years or more at that time. Now it's not. And of the 3 big American automotive companies, we had General Motors and Ford, huge companies, and then trailing third was Chrysler, a company founded in 1921, and Chrysler simply could not handle the sudden dramatic onslaught of Japanese imports. And their car sales fell dramatically. And in a period of 3 years, they lost $3.3 billion. That's not a lot of money now, but at the time it was more money than any company had lost in the history of the world in a period like that. That's how much it was. And there was very serious talk of Chrysler going out of business. And that idea of one of the big 3 car makers, one of the biggest industries in America going out of business was something itself unheard of. These big companies simply don't go out of business. And it became so desperate that finally, in order to save 100 or 150,000 jobs, the US government came in and offered 10-year bank guarantee to the banks to refinance Chrysler so that we won't lose 150,000 jobs in a matter of months. It was too much of a humiliation and too much of an economic shock. And at that time, the consensus of all the experts on Wall Street was that whatever the government does, Chrysler can't last more than 6 months or a year. And the consensus of all the experts in Detroit, the automotive capital, was also that there's no way Chrysler can survive.
You can move to the next slide.
Is it necessary?
Okay, I mean, it has this content.
Okay, thank you, thank you. This slide you meant. This slide.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim. So they had the lowest quality and lowest customer satisfaction of US car makers. They got the 1.3 billion in loan guarantees. And even after getting that money, they were down to their last $10 million in cash at a time when daily expenses were $50 million. This was the situation. And at this time, we did a study of Chrysler. They weren't our client. We did an independent study because we were trying to understand the things that I'm talking in this class about really what are the drivers of organization. And we came up with an assessment that was quite contrary to what the Wall Street and the Detroit experts all over was unanimous. And we wrote a report and sent it to Iacocca. Lee Iacocca became the president of Chrysler at that time. I don't know if you've heard his name. He became a household name in America. He almost ran for president. I think he would have been elected if he had run. And we wrote and sent a report to Iacocca saying that all the experts say that Chrysler is going to be out of business in a year or two. And certainly that's possible because any company can go out of business if it's poorly managed. But we said it's not necessary. We see that Chrysler has the resources to turn itself around. And Iacocca wrote a personal letter, I still have it, saying it's very gratifying that somebody thinks that the company can be saved because that's certainly not the common view. In the next 3 years, after losing $3.3 billion, Chrysler earned a net profit of $3.3 billion. That's a net change of $6.6 billion. They earned more money in that 3 years than they had earned in the previous 59 years of their existence. And the question is, how did they do it? This is a historical fact. So we started with Amazon. If the rest of you are there, Anna and Tamar and Zizi, I would appreciate seeing you. Thank you. That's better than talking to an empty computer screen. It's not very motivating to do that or to look at myself in the picture. Thank you. The reason I'm taking this example is it's a very different example than Amazon, but it illustrates as dramatically a fundamental principle of this course. In the case of Amazon, they saw what was coming before others, and they made it come. They grew with the society by growing the society. We can't even say they grew with the society. They helped the society grow by becoming the organization or one form of the organization the society needed to rise to a higher level of organization. And of course, many others did it in their own way, and Amazon's not unique in anything that it did, but it's extremely impressive in the scale and speed, magnitude, sophistication, and quality with which it did it. But these potentials, the theme now of this part of the lecture is that potential is there in every company, not just in the leading edge technology, where the new waves are coming, not just where the new technology is coming, not just where the new markets are opening. That potential is there in every company. And we took up a study of Chrysler just to prove to ourselves that that was true. And so I want to go through what the situation was at Chrysler and what we found and what we wrote to Chrysler and what they did. And if you haven't, I assume you haven't, but I would heartily recommend, if you want some very good reading, the biography, autobiography of, it's not called the autobiography, but it's an autobiographical account by Lee Iacocca, written just before The Vital Difference came out, in which he said what they did. And what he said they did and created the first real record for was exactly what we had been writing in the book. Our book was written, but we needed one more chapter. And he was kind enough to bring out his book just before our book was ready to go to the publisher. And we wrote one more chapter, which I'm going to ask you to read before we meet again, chapter 12, where he told the story. And what I've done in the Vital Difference is to tell how that story is an expression of the process we're talking about in the book and what we're talking about now. The fact that he could turn it around at a time when experts, informed people, not just academics. I mean, really, and the experts who supposedly knew more than anybody else said, there's no way Chrysler can survive. And the fact that he did it in 3 years, not even the 10 years that the government hoped maybe they would get their money back, is something just remarkable. And the question is why? How is it possible? How did he do it? And that's what I want to look at now, because the process is essentially the same. He looked at the resources and the potentials and saw that nothing is being fully utilized. None of the social potential, none of the organizational potential is being fully utilized. So I'm going to go through it quickly. You're going to read it. The first thing he did was, you have to understand, in the car business, people are not buying just a fashion item. They're buying an investment for the future. And one of the biggest obstacles that Chrysler had was, if the car company is going to disappear in the next year or 2 or even 3, what's going to be the resale value of this car? Who's going to repair it? Who's going to do the warranty that they get on it? At that time, there were 3-year warranties on American cars. Who will buy a car if you don't think the manufacturer is going to be around even to supply spare parts for it a year or 2 from now? It was a huge problem. The first thing he did was they went out and listened to customers and realized that the big gas guzzling cars is not the future for them. The only way they can compete is to produce a small fuel efficient cars, which no company in America, the Japanese were doing and assembling in the US. And they designed in shortest possible time, a set of cars called the K cars, different models of cars sold under different names, but all essentially with the same chassis, which were a huge success. Iacocca got on the television, unprecedented in American history, and he told the American public, once the K car had come out, we're not giving a 3-year guarantee on this car, we're giving a 7-year guarantee, which no American car maker has ever given. And he says, my pledge to you is, if you can find a better car, go out and buy it. You won't find a better car for the money. And remarkably, the American people believed him. And they started buying his cars. He built up public confidence, which is one of the most easiest things to lose for a company, and one of the most difficult things to rebuild, especially when everybody says you're going to be out of business in a year or 2. They had a huge problem with their dealers. They were using an innovative accounting technique where they would produce the cars, send them to the dealers' stockyards, and show them as sold, where actually the cars still belonged to them until the customer bought them. And they got to the point where they had 100,000 cars unsold on dealers' lots around the country. And they had never been paid for, and the dealers had no liability for the cars because they weren't moving. And he had to raise and change the attitude and relationship with the dealers, restore and improve the relations to the dealers, to get rid of what they call, at the same time, get rid of what they called the car sales bank dealer inventory system, which was great for the dealers because they didn't have to invest anything. And they had no risk involved, and yet he had to change everything. And within a 6-year period, he almost doubled the sales volume of the cars, when the other 2 American car makers were seeing a big fall in their car sales because of the Japanese competition. He won the confidence of the market. He listened. He gave the people what they wanted, which no American company was doing really effectively. He built up their confidence, and he did it by restoring and rebuilding the dealer network. It was something nobody thought was possible. In terms of technology, Chrysler had always been a leader. Walter Chrysler, the founder of the company, was an engineer. He was an innovator, and Chrysler was always ahead in launching new technologies. The only problem is their new technologies were rarely, if ever, in tune with what the people really wanted. They introduced the first aerodynamically designed automobile in the 1930s, right in the middle of the Great Depression, but nobody knew what aerodynamics was, and nobody cared about the fuel efficiency or the sleek look, and it was a failure. They introduced the first push-button automatic transmission in the early 50s when I was growing up. It was a classy thing, but nobody wanted it. Nobody cared about it. They had technology, they had expertise, they had innovation, but it wasn't in tune with what customers were looking for. They introduced a massive quality improvement program, and they fell from the last of the American car makers to the first of the American car makers in terms of their quality rating within just a few years, 3 years or so. They turned the whole thing around. Very impressive was, in the US, it used to take years to develop a new model. Years and years, very slow process. They cut the product development time from 3 years to between 6 and 12 months. So they could get out a new product with new innovation in it much faster than anybody else in America. And even at a time when they had no money, they invested in developing new product, what was called the minivan at that time, which became a tremendous success. He didn't just cut back, he put the money in to create the future of the company, and he succeeded. Out of the few 100,000 employees that Chrysler had at that time, the main people he sent away were the vice presidents. Very interesting. 34 of the 35 vice presidents that had been presiding over the company, he fired. Iacocca had been the president of Ford. He was hired from the president of Ford to become the president of the competitor, Iacocca. And he said, I simply cannot turn the company around with these people. Why? Not that they're not bright, they're industry experts. They know the industry backwards and forwards for two fundamental reasons. He couldn't find any one of them that really believed that Chrysler could be turned around. And if you don't believe it can be turned around, you're certainly not the person who can do it. And the second was, each of them, in spite of the difficulties of the company, was deeply entrenched in their own duchy or feudal system where they were the king of a small kingdom within this big company. And they were defending themselves from every other department and everything else in the company, living in their importance, refusing to cooperate. And he said, this is the spirit that can destroy even a good company. Replaced them and found at just the next level, there were bright, younger people eager to come up, middle-level managers, eager to come up, full of energy, full of enthusiasm, full of new ideas. And he promoted from within, rather than he brought a few people from Ford too, released a tremendous amount of energy for innovation, broke down the old corporate structure, the bureaucracy, the lethargy, the indifference. He even brought a member of the president, I think it was, of the United Automotive Workers and put him on the board, which was something in America would never happen. You never let labor get that close to the decision-making in a big corporation. Put him on the board because he was going to ask for real sacrifice and cooperation of the workforce. And he felt the only legitimate way he could do that is to build the confidence of labor that they were part of the solution, not just a considered part of the problem. And it worked. And he got concessions out of the unions that that Ford and GM could not get. Invested tremendously in training. The situation when he came to Chrysler, he described it was so horrifying to him. He said the factory floors were like an underworld. There was gambling, there was prostitution, there was even a murder going on in one of their many factories. He said to instill discipline there was something he never thought of in an American company. And that was what he did. He describes that when he first came there, he was horrified to see that the president's office, where he was between some of the offices on one side and the cafeteria area where you get coffee, and people were walking through the president's office on their way to get coffee back and forth. He saw there was just no discipline in the company. And at the same time, he raised the level of discipline very strictly. At the same time, he introduced freedom to enhance the freedom of action in order to release the energy of people and encourage innovation. He strengthened systems at every level in all parts of the company: reporting systems, financial control, product development, scheduling, purchasing. Virtually every system he found was substandard for achieving the goals they needed. It was an organizational turnaround strategy. That was part of it. He improved coordination between engineering and production. And since I studied Chrysler, I found out that this is a pretty fairly common thing when companies that pride themselves on being, we're technology-driven companies, and I've worked in a number of them in different industries, the engineers who are the technology drivers and are so proud of being the brilliant, the prima donnas who design something new, they have very little tolerance for marketing people. They feel they know better what the market wants, and the marketing people should just take what they produce and sell it. And I've seen it in Denmark, where I worked with the largest electronics manufacturer company. You may know the name Bang & Olufsen. Brilliant innovator, technological innovator. I've seen it in India, where I worked with one of the largest newspapers. The editors refused to listen to the salespeople when the sales vice president of sales told them that the customer wants something different in the newspaper. The editors would say, "Who are you to tell us what the customer wants? We're editors. We know what the customer wants." And they were dead wrong, of course. And so he introduced coordination between engineering and marketing, so they worked together on developing new product. And that's what made the K-Car line and the Miniman so successful. He introduced coordination across the company in different divisions. And something we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks, he took core values, core operational performance values like service, speed, quality, punctuality, efficiency, coordination, cleanliness, standardization, systemization, communication, coordination, cooperation, and insisted on raising them to a high level in a very short period of time. And finally, finance. They negotiated with the banks, and the banks were very reluctant to help them out. Obtained the 10-year bank guarantees, which was unprecedented from the US government, and repaid those bank guarantees 7 years early. In just 3 years, they repaid the whole thing. He closed inefficient operations, centralized a lot of services that could be done, financial services. They cut the number of parts they have. It's there in the book. I'd have to go back and read the number. But it was something like they cut the number of parts they were using in all their models from 50,000 to about 15,000. Because every car model made, American car makers have different divisions. Like there's, in General Motors, there's Chevrolet and Cadillac and Buick and Oldsmobile and missing one. I think they're all making their own things, their own models, their own spare parts, everything. They act as autonomous divisions. Chrysler had been doing the same thing. He said, "We can't afford this. It's nonsense, even for a door handle. We've got so many different door handles for different models. Every part is made differently for every product. They cut it down drastically and tremendously reduced their inventory costs and their delivery times too. Introduce cost cutting, reduce fixed costs, and so forth, and therefore reduce their break-even point by more than 50% in the process. So this is how, what my story of telling you this was, that what's true in a new company, what's true in a startup company is equally true in big companies, in sophisticated companies, even in companies like Amazon. I have not studied, I've not been into Amazon, but I've been in enough top performing companies, and I can give you examples to say, there is no company that doesn't have this potential. There is no company that doesn't have the potential, no matter how advanced it is compared to its competitors, to improve the overall functioning in each of these 5 areas. Why? Because the moment you strengthen any of these components or these engines, the company grows and its needs grow, and it requires further organizational evolution. Building and growing a company is like remodeling a plane while it's flying in midair. You have to keep it going. You can't land and take everything apart. And yet, the faster you go or the further you go, the more it needs to change. It's got to be able to recreate itself while it's moving, while it's in the air. So I came up with this way of depicting what we typically find in companies, and I've done this, I've measured it, not only I've measured it, the companies have measured it, more than 1,000 different companies. And this is typically what you see. Never mind which of the 5 numbers on the chart is the highest or not, that changes. But typically a company is strong in 1 or 2 areas. And these are the companies that tell you we're market-driven companies, or we're technology-driven companies, or we're finance-driven companies run by the accountants or the bankers. But every company we've been in, when they evaluate themselves, they come up with something like this. The numbers may change, the difference may change, which one is strong may change. But the fact that these 5 are in different alignment with each other. And my argument has been, what is the potential that the company is tapping if they have an alignment like this, where the lowest, this is only an arbitrary scale where companies evaluate themselves. But here it shows a company which is 18 on technology and only 10 on finance. And you can switch them around any way you want. My argument to the companies is, what they're tapping is not the 18 on finance and the 14 on market, or even the 12 on people. What the full potential they're tapping is dependent by the lowest, the weakest of the 5. The proverb, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And what companies do when they want to grow is they try to strengthen their strength. They said, we really need more technology. We're number 1 in technology, we've really got to improve it more. Or we're really good on cost cutting, we've got to cut it even further. Or we're really dynamic in the market, we've got to strengthen our market. And my argument is, they get much more result by raising the weakest than by strengthening the strongest, where they're already not getting the full results, because these 5 are not 5 separate things. We talk about them that way. They're 5 interrelated, inextricably linked to one another. And we saw it with Amazon, that you can't even distinguish between the technology and the organization. Because what part of it is technology, what part of it's organization, they're one. You can't distinguish that with their relationship with the market. Their technology and organization are so integrated with the market that they're all connected. So what Chrysler did was something like this. They raised the performance, what Iacocca did, like this, up to like this. So that whatever they had, they were getting much more of. And it's interesting, technology did not actually go up in their own estimation. What went up is everything else that strengthened the results that they got from technology. And so the net result was they were able to integrate these 5 engines, not just balance them, not just raise them, but integrate them in a way that gave results which nobody believed was possible. This is exactly what Amazon did, and nobody believed that was possible, but nobody even thought about it or took it seriously until he did it. So it was a moot point. But in the case of Chrysler, everybody had come off saying it's impossible. And so their results rose from last to first in quality and customer satisfaction, converted 3.3 billion in losses into 3.3 billion in profit. Their share price multiplied 9-fold, and they repaid the guarantee 7 years early. So my question is, why were the experts so wrong? My question to you is, how could the experts have been so wrong? These are people who know so much more than we know about the automotive industry. They knew more about Chrysler also. How could they have been so wrong?
May I? Maybe they didn't know how to fill the gap between what company was doing and what was the need of the customer.
Certainly that's true. Certainly it's true. Anyone else?
Because one thing is what company is doing, but it may not quite coincide with what's the need from the customer.
Actually, none of the American car makers were doing what the customer needed at that time, and but nobody thought they could. They thought it would take years. They thought it would take 5 or 7 years to rebuild and remodel, re-engineer, retool themselves to change what they were doing. Nobody thought that just in a turnaround, in 3 years, you could convert these losses into profits.
Because they weren't looking to the new opportunities. They were just thinking from the perspective of something or that already existed.
They were like Barnes and Noble. They were thinking how to hold on to the past. They made all their money on big cars. The Japanese in with what the people wanted. Well, if we give up these big cars, then we'll be competing with the Japanese on price. We won't be profitable there. And they lost huge money, huge money. One year, General Motors, 10 years after this, they lost 6.6 billion. They lost $6 billion in 1 year. What Chrysler lost was 3.3 billion in 3 years. They went on to prove that Chrysler wasn't unique. It took them that long before they decided to remap. Anyone else? Why were the experts so wrong? It's an important point for you that I hope you'll take away from this course.
Well, maybe that's what exactly as with Amazon, that what we keep saying is that nobody actually believed that it was possible, and nobody took the idea of what Amazon did seriously. So maybe it's the same with the experts that didn't consider the possibility of something like this actually working.
And the question is, why? What mistake were they making that you'll never make in future? Georgie, any guess? Any idea?
No, not at this one. Okay. I'm thinking.
Yeah. You wanted to say something?
No, no.
Anna, any ideas? Any theories? Well, I'll tell you my conclusion. Yes, Anna.
I agree with Zizi. I think that they didn't too much concentrate on what on the customers' needs, on the society's needs.
I think that's true. They were in touch with what they were doing. They were in touch with what they had been doing. They weren't in touch with the fact that society had changed dramatically in a short period of time, nominally because of the oil price rise, the oil crisis, and also because suddenly they had a competitor which they'd never had in the American market. The Japanese car makers who had learned from America how to produce a quality car and produced it at a much higher standard at lower cost and in a smaller size and higher efficiency. But I think there's something more general, fundamental than that, which is why I've been pressing this question. I think this is the mistake we always make when we think that you see that a company is what you see on the surface. In financial terms, everybody made this mistake because they saw the balance sheet. They saw companies down to the last $10 million on 50 million a day expenditure. They saw the 3.3 billion in losses, and they figured there's no way to turn this around. And what I'm trying to communicate is, a company is not what you see on the balance sheet. Balance sheet is important, but if you're judging a company by its balance sheet, you're not understanding the potential that's there in every company.
It should be judged by its personality.
It should be judged by its potential of all its capacities, by its personality, by the people, by the know-how, by the organization, but not just by what it is today, but by what it could be. And I gave the example. We see what nobody believed FedEx could become what they became. Nobody believed that Apple could become what they became. Nobody believed that Google could become what they became. But these were new companies. And you can say, okay, they just didn't understand the potential, but I've seen the same thing, the same blindness when it came to older companies that were failing. And I'll give you a short story rather than a long one too. I met the head of the Federated Indian Chambers of Commerce. This was about 1990, 91. And he was from a big old business family. He had 9 companies. And I talked to him about the theme of my second book, that any company can double its profits in 2 years or less. And he smiled at me, kind of laughed mischievously. And he said, really, how much do you know about the rayon tire cord business? This was 1990. I said, well, I'm not an expert in tires or in cars or in anything. My expertise is in business and organization. But I said, I remember when I got my first car was 1962. My parents bought me a car. It had rayon tires. By the time we got the second one a couple of years later, it had nylon tires. By the time I got the third, it had polyester tires. And by the time I got the fourth, it had steel radials. And he said, oh, you seem to know an expert. You seem to be an expert. You know everything about the evolution of the tire industry. All took place in about an 8-year period. And then he pulled out a chart. And the chart showed that from 1970 to 1990, the worldwide revenues of rayon tire cord was going down like this. And then he pulled out another chart, was the chart of the revenues of his company. And from the time he opened it, which was 1970, by the way, with US technology, he got the whole technology from the US, the revenues of his company was going down almost in an exactly the same curve. And then he had a red line across the bottom that said, this is where we go into losses. For the last 15 years, we have been cutting costs in every possible way to keep going as long as possible because we're in a dead industry where there's nobody who can survive. And I told my executives, my managers 15 years ago that this is a dying industry, and the moment it goes into losses, I'm not going to waste any more money. I'm closing the doors. And you can bet they were very efficient in maintaining their jobs for as long as possible. There had been 6 of these companies in India, and by the time I met him, there were only 2 left, and they were the other one closed pretty soon after that. And he said, he smiled at me and he said, now, Mr. Jacobs, you still want to believe that any company can double its profits in 2 years? And I said, I believe it should be true. And he said, okay, I give you the challenge. And we did a study exactly along the lines of what I'm talking to you. And in the book, if you read the chapter on the 5 engines with all the questions, that we 100 questions, which are only indicative to show you how much detail we can go into. And I used those in the companies. And at the end of it, I came back with a report to him. And I said, I was wrong in my uninformed assessment. I certainly believe that the company can double its profits in 2 years, but it's also possible to triple the profits. You really, if you're really committed, I'd say it's possible to raise the profit 6 times in 2 or maximum 3 years. He was bewildered at it. His son, who had just finished his MBA at Harvard, looked at me with great suspicion and said, what kind of nonsense is this? Just because you say these things, it doesn't mean anything. Anybody can talk like this. You consultants can just talk off the top of your head. It's very fine, but you're not running the company. And so I said 2 things to him. I said, I'm sorry, because maybe I haven't made myself clear. I was being a little too polite. What I'm really telling to you is you're not living in a dying industry. You have a management that's killing the company because you decided it's already dead. And as far as being a consultant who can boast and say anything without being responsible for it, if you're ready, I'm willing to sign a contract today to take the company and work with you for the next 3 years to raise the profit. And all I want is a percentage of the profit, the increase that you get. And the moment they realized that I was serious, they said, they thanked me, paid me my fees, and sent me away. And by some circumstance, I met the son, the Harvard MBA, 3 years later. I said, how's your company? Our profits have grown 6 times. Exactly 6 times. So I'm telling you this not to talk about myself. I'm talking about the potential of a business. And what I'm trying to teach in this course is not that you all become management consultants, though I'll be happy if you do, that's great, but that whatever you do, you will begin to see the potential which other people don't see, which other people exists, which the bankers will say it's a lost cause. I went to Japan in 2001, I guess it was, when the Japanese were writing off tens of billions of dollars of loans, of bad loans, non-performing loans. And I approached some of the top banks in Japan. I said, you really don't have to write off those loans at all. And I can show you how to turn around the companies that you're just writing off the loans on. Nobody believed that it was possible, because the bankers only believed in the financial statements that they had.
Yes, they do. I want to ask, why was it considered that tire industry was dying?
The
Why?
tire dying, it was the rayon tire cord. The technology was changing. It went from rayon to nylon to polyester to steel radial. It was a technological development that made them believe that it was dying. It was not tire industry. Tire industry is booming in India, as all over the world because of the automotive growth here. It's booming. It was rayon that was dying. So their technology was a rayon technology. They couldn't use it for making nylon tire cord or polyester or anything else. So that's what we meant. It wasn't tires that were dying. It was a particular segment, niche of an outmoded technology.
So they didn't want to develop, yeah, and to implement some technological innovations.
Well, they would have virtually start from scratch because all they had was useless for the, the next generation of technology required a whole new investment. Now they tried to hold on to what they had already invested in as long as possible, make something out of it, and finally close it down when they couldn't make more. What they would do after that, they didn't really think. But they never imagined, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, that was 30 years ago. And the company is still running today. They were planning to close it in 6 to 12 months. And it's still running today, yes.
And how, do you have the information, how did they manage to do it? Because, they sent you away and then they changed their mind, right?
I gave them a report covering all the 5 engines and where, in spite of the fact they were hard driving business people from an old 100-year-old business family who thought they know how to manage anything, they were tough on finance, tough on discipline and everything else. I showed them there were so many ways in which these 5 engines could be further developed. And once they knew it, they were smart people, dynamic people.
Okay.
They believed it. They wouldn't have believed it, but I said, okay, you don't believe it. Let me do it and show you. And why do you want to write it off? Once they believed it, they went after it and they did it. And this is not a unique case. I'm not trying to tell you about a unique case of what I did. What Iacocca did was unique in the magnitude and size of it. I've seen it in companies of all size in all industry, even the best companies. What I'm trying to talk about is not me or the Iacocca or the industry or the consultant. I'm trying to talk about the potential of organization. The power that's there. Organization, not just as one of the 5 engines, but the business as a child of the society relating to the potentials of the society when the society is growing, when it's vibrant, and tuning in, getting our blinders off, taking off the shades, and seeing what's before our eyes. The potential of the people, which is unlimited, and companies generally do a relatively poor job of tapping that potential. The potential of society. When we talk about market share, it's a complete misnomer. It's not markets that have share. Market is a moving target. Today's market didn't exist 5 years ago. Market is a subset of the society. What we mean by market, what's the definition of market? It's not all of human needs. It's not all the social needs. It's a particular niche or segment of those needs that we figured out how to meet effectively or more effectively than somebody else. Those needs are unlimited. I'm sure you'll agree today, we haven't exhausted the potential for educating the world population, giving them quality education in all ways, or healthcare for that matter, or entertainment or anything else. This is a question of how the company relates to its resources or harnessing all the technology that we have today. In the conference that we're having next week, just a few days, one of my arguments is there are no shortage of resources in the world to create prosperity for everybody. We have $180 trillion of global financial resources. 80% of it is not even being used in the real economy. Less than 20% of it is actually being used to produce goods and services to meet the needs of human beings or create jobs. Most of it is not being utilized for any effective, efficient purpose at all. It's trying to go after speculative gains, or it's being stored as gold, which doesn't help anybody, or fixed assets, which don't help everybody. This is true of the world. It's not just true of companies. The theory of organization I'm talking is a theory of human society. It's not just a theory in business. It's true of our governance structures. I'm sure you will agree. If not, I won't talk about Georgia, but you'll talk about America. I think you must agree that there's a better way to run a country than the way we're running it. There's a better way to get people to work together effectively, not only with each other, but with the rest of the world. This is the technology of human civilization, and we're still at a young age of it. And where we see great examples of it, it's inspiring and it's wonderful to know. But even the best of them, it doesn't mean that we tap the best. Come 5 years later and you'll see that somebody's doing it better. Somebody thought of a way to do it better than they did, or they thought of a way to do it better. And that's what I'm trying to communicate through the course. We have opportunities all around us. As individuals, you have those opportunities. As businesses, we have those opportunities. As countries, I've done it in India, looking at the potential for the country. In 1985, I did a study for the Prime Minister's office about the potential for software exports. India's software exports in 1985 were $10 million. 10 million. Today, they're 130 billion. That's about 13,000 times multiple. They didn't create all of that themselves. The world was unfolding, the world was developing, but they adapted and adapted a lot faster and better than some other countries have done in tapping that potential. The world society, its needs are growing. So anyway, I hope you got the point, why I wanted to start with Amazon and show you a company that saw the wave coming and rode on it. This is a company that had lost the wave 20 years or 30 years earlier. And when they were overtaken by competition, instead of giving up, I'm talking about Chrysler, they responded positively and saw there's so much they could be doing better and different than before. And that's true of the best companies, as well as, and I'll find some time in one of our other lectures to give you an example of that. Top company, most admired corporation in the US at the time, found the same thing was true for them. It's got to be, otherwise how did the best companies keep growing? Unless there's an untapped potential. How does the Amazon of a few years ago, we had that, Srijit, what's this slide? I don't remember. You had a slide on Amazon, we didn't show it, I forgot it.
The revenue, after finance revenue, around 14th slide, before this.
This is it.
This one.
They went from they went from nothing to 280 billion in revenue in 22 years. The
first 12 years they were on operational loss actually. All this thing happened from 2007 onwards, I think.
And I think it was Anna who pointed out in her comments, one of you, I don't mean to miss.
Yeah.
You focused that, you mentioned that Bezos was intent on reinvestment, not on meeting the aspirations of expectations of shareholders.
Yes, they were more concentrated on the profit, not the income.
Really almost unique in the feverish short-term profit competition of the American financial community. He kept constantly refusing to give in to the pressure for short-term profits and short-term dividends and everything. He said, we're reinvesting in the future. Otherwise, he could never have multiplied the assets of the company as rapidly as he did. He wasn't turned aside by the prevailing wisdom of the day that you've got to give those returns to the shareholder, and the shareholders waited. And I don't think they're disappointed that they waited.
So patience is also a good resource for success.
Sure, and one in very short supply today in the world.
Yeah.
Not even valued. Okay, I think we probably won't have time for the other exercise we wanted to do, but I'll just show it to them. We can take it up later on. They can think about it. What we wanted to do is we're going to have a discussion with you. We'll find the right time to do it. We've named these companies. You can add any other company. We tried to name companies you would know, were likely to know, and we would know also. That's the common denominator here. But we'd like to ask you to think about what was the secret behind these companies growing so rapidly, so uniquely. What is the principle behind it in each case, or as in many as we can, so that you get accustomed to thinking this way. The real hard part is when you go into companies that are not growing and see that those potentials are there also. It's easier to see in the ones that have already done it, but just to get you thinking along these lines more. So we'll come back to this in a subsequent lecture. Now, Srijit, we go to the assignments or the exam?
First, we can go to the exam and then we can come back to the assignments.
Let's talk about the exam. I think they asked us about it last week.
Yeah.
How many want an exam, midterm exam? Or we'll just call it even and say we all. Okay, go ahead. Tell them what we have.
Yeah, I think Janani is presenting.
Okay. Yes. Hi all, we've been having a lot of these, discussions, and so we need to have this first exam, but we really don't like calling it an exam. It's more to see how much we understand and how much we can even continue learning together. And so we want this as exam or the test to be an exercise that helps us actually understand and learn better. So the idea, what we plan to do for next Saturday, July 20th is, it's a 2-hour session from 1 to 3 in the afternoon for you. And we request you all to log in as usual to Zoom. You will receive the link, you will log in. And once you log in through chat, through Zoom chat, we will send all of you an individual link. You click on this link, it opens a Google document. Each one receives a separate link. Each one opens a separate Google document, which we have already created. This is the question paper. It has, we plan, it will have 12 questions, out of which you have a choice. You can answer any 8 questions and you will have to type it. And if you can enable camera at that time, it will be better for all of us. And
I want the cameras on.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So it will be something like this. Only there may not be any screen shared, so we can all view each other's cameras. And I request all of you to start right away. Start at writing the answers to any 8 questions that you like. And after half an hour, we're all used to these breakout sessions now. And so after half an hour, Dr. Garry Jacobs and Srijit, they will both be in a breakout room. And each of you, one by one, will be sent to that breakout room. And there will be a discussion, maybe a question based on one of the answers that you've already written on any of the questions. There will be a brief, a 10-minute discussion. And while this discussion is going on, for example, if one student, Zizi, is actually in that breakout session, all the others will continue writing the answers. And after the 10-minute discussion, Zizi will come out of the breakout session, and next we will send Anna in, and so Zizi can continue writing the other answers. So this will happen after the first 30 minutes, one by one, each one will be sent to that breakout room. There will be a 10-minute discussion, and then they return and continue the exam. And so this is, pardon?
And discussion will be related to those essay questions that we will receive. Yeah.
Yes.
Will something that you've written by that time, so we see how your writing reflects your thinking. We want to do as much as possible. So whatever you've written, we'll try to understand, discuss it, and see how much. The requirement of the exam is a university requirement. It's not ours. But in doing it, we'd like to do something that meaningful that you can also learn from. And after the exam, we'll see how far we can share insights from it, examples from it. So it is a learning experience for us and for you at the same time. It's no trick questions. What the raw material for preparation would be, do the reading that I've asked you to do, because you see the method that I'm using in the course is we need a common ground if we're going to talk in reality rather than in pure theory. This is a course on theory, but as far as I'm concerned, theory out of context is meaningless. It's just words. So we've been trying to create a shared context. We created it through the Gladiator clip, the Ocean's 11, Ocean's 8, I guess it was, and Sully, and the limited amount of reading, relatively very limited amount of reading I've asked you to do. The article on World as Web and the one on the theory of the firm, where I'm looking to see what understanding you get out of this, rather than what you have memorized. The story of Harriet, because we need a common ground in which to discuss things. And now you've got Amazon and Chrysler. So I was trying to create enough shared experience that we can talk about the principles in a shared context. That's all. I hope it'll be enjoyable and thought-provoking. And it's not meant as an intimidation, but I would appreciate your coming prepared so that we can get as much out of it. You can get as much out of the course as possible. Any questions? Perfectly clear. Good.
It will be for 2 hours, and at the end of 2 hours, the document gets saved automatically. So at 3, when the test is over, we will download the answer sheets.
Okay. And anybody who's not been here, who missed today, I don't know who missed today. How many have missed? Somehow we have to communicate with them, Janani.
Yes, we will mail all of them and copy the departments.
Okay. Then, if there's no question on the exam, what I'd like you to do, chapter 12 in Vital Difference, the first book, is a story of Chrysler's turnaround. It'll be helpful if you read that before the exam. You can take it as a preparation for the exam, because a lot of the things we are speaking are there in the chapter. I would like by before the miracle is for, this is actually, Janani, chapter 12 is for next week. The rest is for the 27th.
Okay.
That's correct.
So another company that we're going to talk about as a nice comparison with Amazon, because it's the story, a similar story of how a company became, out of nothing, became the largest retailer in the world 100 years ago. 100 years ago, but you'll see how similar the principles are. And that's Sears. And that's the, if you read the references in Vital Difference to Sears, it's not that much reading, but then when we're talking about it, you'll have a context. And also, this is 2 weeks from now, not for the exam. I'd like you to watch the movie Miracle. I don't know how many of you have heard of it. It's a Walt Disney movie about, based on a true story, but of course with Hollywood flair. It's a true story of the American ice hockey team that competed in the Olympics against the Soviets, who were by far the giants in the world at that time. And it tells a story of organizational, of what I would say, a performance. It's entertaining and can be very motivating. I've used it with companies, but I'm interested in you getting insights into this untapped potential. American, when the story begins, when the coach for the team, a college coach, these were all college kids, was interviewed by the American Olympic Committee, and they said that we are looking for a coach. He could assure us that America will get to the last 8 teams in the competition. That's all we're looking for. And the coach said, I won't be interested in this job unless I can try to get to the number 1. And they all laughed. There's a true
ambitious guy.
They all laughed because look, nobody's going to get to the number 1 because the Soviets have dominated ice hockey for 10 years. The average age of their players is 32 or 34. They're not amateurs. They're not college kids at all. They've been working together for 10 years. And it's absolutely ridiculous to think that we're going to take a group of youngsters out of college and put them together for 6 months and build a team that can beat the Soviets. It's absurd. So let's talk sense. And he said, if I'm taking the job, that's my goal. And this is the story, true story of what happened. So it's illustration of the same principles we're talking about at Chrysler and at Amazon, but in a different context. And getting out of the context helps show the universality of what we're talking about. Okay, so that's for after the exam the next week. Just wanted to mention it in case we get so carried away with the exam that we forget to mention it. That's all.
So for the exam to read this chapter 12, right?
All the reading, the exam will cover reading that you've done up until now. I'm asking for one more reading, which should be fresh because I just told you the story, but may help it in a little more. So everything, including this chapter, is material on which the exam will be based.
Okay.
Will we have the 1 week gap after the midterm exam? Usually we have a 1 week holiday.
Well, you have 1 week holiday every week.
It's not a holiday, actually.
Anna, it's fine with me. You take it up with the university because they haven't told us about this.
Okay, we will check just to be sure. Do we have a lecture or not?
No, but it says, Anna, assignment for June 27th, so there's no holiday.
No, I don't think you need bother taking it up with the university because we're pretty clear about what they expect. So, but you can take off as much time during the week as you want, including Sundays. That's all up to you. But this is not very demanding, I hope. 3 hours. Anyway, this is the plan. Anything else you want to talk about? Anything we've talked about up until now? Any doubts, questions, or anything is fair game.
I
Enough.
think everything is clear.
Good, then we give you a 10-minute holiday, if not a 1 week. See you next week. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hmm.